Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Lars, and today I would like to share with you how I do snow bases on my Tyranids army and why I chose snow bases. So to have a look at the base, I'll use my Von Ryan Lieber from my combat patrol. This sits in the setting for this kind of base. I like to preface with is kind of like a highlands tundra kind of area, and that's what I'm trying to aim for. So you would have some big rocks, you would have different kind of grass here, you have a little bit of moss, some flowering, etc. Meanwhile, there's been a blizzard as well, right? So what did we have here on this base is we have, to begin with, like a little bit of sand in the bottom. That's added with glue. We have a little bit of an extra stone out here. And then we have the tufts that you will see pretty much in front of me here. The reason for I have this snow base is I really like basing. I think it's one of the funniest thing to do in the hobby. You can really make your models and the narrative come alive when you do these kind of things. And the narrative for my Tyranids here is that they're playing against or fighting against a Space Wolves army in a tundra area, and that has been affected with snow. So that's why that I started doing this kind of things. So it's a little bit more like a narrative kind of things that I'm doing with my models. But let's get into how we do this. For the example today, we have my Winged Hive Tyrant. He's the last figure from my base, from my combat patrol, that is missing the base. Also some wings to get painted, but that is it. So his base is looking like this at this point. If you don't have the holder from Citadel for this, you don't need that. It will just be easier to have something where you put it on. I use some blue tack in this case. Don't mind the magnets. But use some blue tack and a bigger kind of paint pot, then it kind of gives you like the same kind of feel to hold it. It's just a little bit easier to work with. So what we have done to this base at this point is we have added some glue. It's this one here specifically. This is just standard PWA glue. This is a quick 15 minutes. It uses for setting. So let it set before you paint on it, and then it's completely dry after 8 to 12 hours. But the quick set is quite nice because it allows us to get to paint fairly quickly. I did this yesterday, so this should be ready to paint on today. What we are going to do today is you could go from here, you could go two ways. Either you can go use a primer on this now, and normally I would use a white scar for this. You can choose whatever you prefer. But you are also able to, with a base color, just apply that on top. And I'll go through all of the paint products that we'll use in a second. And then start applying your dry brushing, and then your tufts, and then your snow. So to go over what we have used here on the base is we started with the PWA glue. Then we have used this bird sand that is pretty much, it's bought from a pet store. 5 kilos of this is, I think, 7 or 8 euros. We have added a small stone. This was found in kind of like a decoration store. I randomly stumbled upon it, and instead of going out and picking up in the garden, now I have for at least for the next couple of years here. And I think this box here was like 5 euros. It's not expensive for these kind of things. The next thing you'll see is probably the bit more expensive things, and here you can use whatever you want to do, but I will tell which product it is. I'll also link them in under the video here. This here is a Gamer's Grass Tufts 6 millimeters, Winter's Tufts it's called. This is the Gamer's Grass Autumn Tufts, also 6 millimeters. This is Gamer's Grass Floral Tufts. And then we have what I have like a small moss effect from Green Stuff World, also 6 millimeters. I like to add them around the stones, so it looks like some moss has grown up upon the stone. For the actual coloring, what we will be doing is we'll give the base layer with this Rhinox hide and this to create this kind of brown earth shade that you will have if you go up and dig up your grass in your garden, right? After that, we would add some shade, Agrax earth shade in this case, and the reason for this is when you're applying these kind of base layer on the colors, regardless whether you primed it or not, like there are so many small crevices between these stones that you'll never be able to get into. So it's just easier to add these kind of shade into it. It also creates a little bit of dynamic shadowing effect, but I normally use it to reach into the majority of the places where the base color doesn't get into. After that, we'll do a heavy dry brushing, almost over brushing of Mechanicus Standard Gray. We don't push this in between the stones or in between the sand grains that we have here. We do it as on top, so it kind of gives like a chilly frost effect on top of the ground. And to then further enhance that effect, we will use this thing. In this case, I use Administratum Gray on top of this. And I use that like on a couple of areas, not all of them. I don't want to paint it completely on top of the base, where that is what we're doing with this. And then this we will add in a couple of splotches, big splotches around the base. And then in the end, on those big splotches, we will add a little bit extra of Corax white. And the reason for that is like it's a very grayish white. So this should give you this kind of cold effect or cold earth effect that you have. Once that's done, you can start applying your tufts as you see fit. That's what I do next. And then from the last step would then be to add what's called the technical paint from Citadel color line. This is the Valhalla Blizzard. There's different products to do snow effects. I've done not done an extensive research, but I have seen a lot of videos. There's a million on YouTube. Feel free to go and find those. But for me, I really like the technical Valhalla Blizzard. I will say it will be very expensive in the long run if you have to do like very big models all the time, such as we have a gray pile of shame here on the Tyrannofex. I will probably still use it on the Tyrannofex base, but if you are intending on doing like lots of monsters, it could potentially become a little bit expensive in the long run, but to me it gives the best result. Alternatively, if you want a little bit more run for your money, what I found the second best option for me is the AK Interactive Snow Diorama. So you will start by applying this. This looks more like a little glue looking like paint. There's no textural effect in this, so you will add this first. And once you have added that, they have these things called ice sparkles that you'll then sprinkle on top. And it's kind of like, it's almost like sugar that you can add on top. I will have some pictures of this on my Instagram as well. So I will probably link those in the description below, so you can go and see for yourself the differences here. A little bit about the tools that you might need for this product, or for this type of work. I like just to grab the you can probably even see this here. I use this for grabbing Valhalla Blizzard out of the pot. It's a little bit annoying working with it in the pot. So I grab that and put it on a tray. I have this tray. I use the center thing, as you can see. You can even see here, it gets super sticky and kind of the effect that it does here, right? So I use that for holding the Valhalla Blizzard. Then I have this old dry brush that I have molested when I started painting. I use this for the Reinhardt's brown base that I put on top of the sand. I found this to cover a lot better than just using a normal large size brush. I think this gets a little bit better in between the crevices and adds a little bit more paint. And that is quite nice when you just want to cover with a base layer. The next thing I do is I do the dry brushing. And for that, get a piece of cardboard. You don't need a fancy mat or textured mat or something. You could potentially even just use this self-healing mat that I have here that has a little bit of grit to it. But what I like to do is a piece of cardboard. You've seen this. This is from an IKEA lamp, I think. And then you need your brush. There's two ways to go this. This is something I'll try today. I've recently just got these a little bit more fancier dry brushes. But before that, I was actually gotten a tip from another YouTuber named Will. His YouTube channel is the Paint Beast. He's using these eyeshadow brushes. They are very soft and they work equally well. So what I would normally do is I'll take a little bit of water over here. I'll dab it on top of the brush just to weten the brush bristles. It should not be wet, but just to get it in so you can get the paint off as well. Add your paint here. Go around in circles till it's almost gone, and then add it on top of the base. So those are kind of the products that you need. Oh, I totally forgot this last one. How do we apply the snow? I have this old layer medium-sized brush. I find that it works very well with these kind of 40mm size bases, and even also the small bases for my Termagants. What I do with this is I make it a little wet, like I would normally do if I would paint normally. Take it off just so the Valhalla Blizzard doesn't get in between the bristles. And you can still use it afterwards for whatever you want to use. But I use it for this at this point. This is very damaged at this point, but I still like to try and keep the bristles as soft as possible. That's the things that you will have to use. From now on, you'll see like a montage of me kind of doing this thing. I would expect it's going to take me anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes per base, depending also on the size. The smaller Termagant bases that you see here, these are probably more in the 15-minute session. And maybe the Termagant, what I call Terminator bases, the 40mm, are maybe more in the 20-minute per base kind of thing. So it's not a long job, but you can sit and have fun and create like your diorama with your tufts and stuff like this. I hope you'll enjoy the montage, and I'll see you at the end of the video. Cool. For the next part of the session here, we will have to figure out what our tufts are. And there's a couple of things that we need to do before doing this. One of the things that I like to do is kind of put the mini back on at this point. The paint it might be wet, but it will not get onto your mini. It's a dry brushed on. It was fairly little to begin with, so it's sticking fairly quickly. So what we'll do is we'll add the model back to the base. It kind of gives us an idea where the model is, so we can add our foliage around it. And then we need to add our tufts. So let's just get the mini. I'll put the mini back on, just like loosely, just to see where he will be. Right, the mini will sit something along these lines here. Right, so here we have the mini, and now we'll just have to figure out the tufts. In the introduction, I said I would be using the autumn tufts from Gamer's Grass. I found something else that I used yesterday on my Termagants, and I would like to use this today together with the winter's tufts. I would like to use, there's these dead tufts from Army Painter. I'll pull them in a second. And then the winter tufts. I think they look really cool together with the base, with the grayish base. And I like to have some kind of variety in my bases, because they are on a larger landscape, on a larger battlefield. And there might be some area where that's been burned down. Some area might just be because of the season that the grass has turned this. So I kind of like to vary it a little bit. So this guy got knocked off. Let's put him back on again. And he sits here. This is the thing about when you add these things to it. You can see here, this is a push fit. Like the push fit doesn't go completely down. So we will need to add some snow around that once we put him in and once we put the snow on. Or we can hide it with some tufts. And when I put him back on, I will probably have to glue him in because he cannot get into the base that he used to, because we have now added all these bird stones or bird sand on top of it. So I'll probably glue him back in just to be sure that he doesn't fall off mid-game. But let me get you the tufts that we're going to use. So for this session, we will be using the Gamer's Grass Winter Tufts as one of the primary one, because this is a winter scene that we're doing. Then we will be using Army Painter Dead Tufts. We will be using Pink Florals. For this, I like to use a pair of tweezers just to get things off with and put it on, and then I'm also able to press it more onto the base itself. This is the fun part. This is what I like the most. I will say one quick note about the tufts. I do really much like the Gamer's Grass tufts, and the reason for that is they are a lot more organic looking at. So you see, you have some a little bit like peanut shaped here. You have a little bit more like the curvature on, a little bit more round. Like it is a very organic looking. Maybe if I take it up to the camera, it will be easier to see. It is a much more organic looking kind of thing. You have like a long kind of bean here, a small round tuft here. They come in all sizes, right? I've used a lot of the small ones. This is the one thing, the one gripe I do have with the Army Painter. So if I were to say that they would, if they something that they could improve on their lines, instead of just having these small round one, because you will now need to create these kind of shapes yourself by putting multiple together. You could, it's just easier for use when you just have these that's already more organically done, right? Now we kind of have this base done, pretty much. And from now on, I will kind of like to add the snow to it. We have some areas, we kind of, when you do this kind of snow thing, you have to figure out like where the snow kind of comes from. Because there will be some larger things like the rock that would maybe hold back some of the snow. So if the majority of the snow is coming from this edge, you would have a thinner layer over here and then maybe a thicker layer over here. Maybe also some thinner layer around where his feet are, because he's been standing in that in the snow as well. So let's get going with the snow. I'll just remove the tufts. now done with the Winged Hive Tyrant. It has gotten its snow, its foliage, its base. It's been based on the bottom with a black, Abaddon black color as well. So we are now able to see here how it looks. I think it looks pretty well done. I'm super happy with the different products used here. But before ending just with this, I wanted to share a little bit on how it looks on smaller and bigger bases. As seen earlier in the video, the Termagants also have the same experience. Here, this is actually done with the AK. So you can see the difference between the AK and the Citadel here. This is a way more flat than the Citadel one. It's a little bit more sparkly because you use these ice sparkles. So this is the difference between the AK and the Citadel. Then you have the Von Ryan's Leaper that we started off the video with. It's a little bit bigger base. We have the the Barbgons as well, also from the Combat Patrol. And the last Combat Patrol figure, besides the Ripper Swarms, is the Psychophage. And as I said earlier, when you're getting up into the monstrous bases, you will use a lot of the snow. So here it's maybe a little bit better to thin it out and maybe just add the bigger poles around areas where it makes sense. But you will see a heavy usage of the Citadel. This is why where I would say it's a pros and cons whether you want to use the AK stuff on these bases to save a little bit of cost, or you would go with the Citadel. I would prefer with the Citadel as well. I think they do look better in the end. And a last monstrous base that we also have is I have a Norn Emissary that's also been painted and done with this Citadel snow base. Same process as all the other. So here you have it. This is the start of my Tyranids army and the snow base covers that I'm using on all my Tyranids. As you can see, all of them have different kind of flowers, grass tufts, etc. And I'm simply taking that aspect that they might be on different parts of the battlefield, where there can be different part of foliage. It can be due to decay, it can be due to fires, it can be due to combat, whatever. So they all look like they're in different parts of the combat field. Thank you very much. That was all for today, and I hope you all will like this video and subscribe for more content. See ya.